Hey everyone, I'm back right in time for the live stream. I was out walking in the rain. It is really wet outside. And I'd walked to Wageningen, which is the university town south of where I live. And this is just kind of my daily walk that I do every day. It's one of my non-negotiables, as I call them. So I try to always, let me just turn on some more lights here. I always try to walk for at least an hour, in because it's healthy and it clears my mind, and that's easy when the weather is nice, obviously. But it's not as fun when it's raining and it's windy they had predicted just a little bit of rain, but it was pouring, and so I went all the way to, let me see, here we are, we have the questions. Went all the way to Wageningen. And in the meantime, while I was walking there, I had some ideas for stories. And I've explained this recently, that this is one of the ways in which I come up with the short stories that I post on my Substack. It's by just going out for a walk and then challenging myself. What story can I tell? And oftentimes when I start to tell the story, so I record it either on my phone or in this case on my mobile recorder. I usually don't have a clue what the story is going to do, where it's going to take me. So it's what writers call discovery writing. So it's you basically, the story forms as you are registering it. In this case, I'm not writing it, but I'm registering it. And so on the way to Wageningen, I came up with a really riveting story. At least I was like just very, very taken by the story. It's the story of a boy who was sent to a monastery to learn how to write, and he's got this chicken feather that he uses as a quill. And then, for reasons that the story will explain, he upgrades to another better feather, and then he wants another feather, and this just never stops until something goes horribly wrong in this desire to constantly get the next quill. It's kind of the medieval version of getting the newest iPhone. He gets trapped by the devil, and then he falls under a terrible curse. That seems to hold him imprisoned for the rest of his eternity, until something happens at the end of the story. That sounds like a very simple story, right? It took me 53 minutes to record it. It was so long, and it's also because when I'm narrating, I visualize it, and so I try to describe as many details as possible, because that helps me later on when I'm starting to finalize the story. Those details just inspire me. It's basically just work that I've already done, and so that is obvious. That's oftentimes a big help in creating a story that is atmospheric. But 53 minutes, I think that's one of the longest stories that I've ever recorded, and I think the actual result will just be maybe 1,200 words. It's a simple story. And then I was tired. I've been tired most of the day. I'll explain why in a minute. But so I just did some grocery shopping. It's basically just to clear my mind. I didn't really need anything, but I just walked into some stores and I just kind of blanked out. And then I realized, well, I need to go back, because it's still, it's a 45 minute walk at least to come back. It's raining. And I've got my live stream, so I need to be home in time. And I thought, I'm probably going to make it. And so kind of when I was approaching home, I suddenly got another idea for a story. And this is a story, it's part of the world building that I'm doing for my novel. And I wanted to tell the story of the very first story mages, which happened to be the Magi from the Gospel. And so I first started to record a little bit of background thoughts of why we were calling these guys magi, and what kind of magic is that, etc. And then I was telling the story. And it's basically the story that you know of the Magi, but then from the angle of story magic. It's kind of hard to explain, but I was surprised to see where that led me. And there were some, like even the gifts that they bring to Jesus, I figured out how they could be part of story magic. You'll have to read the final result to discover how that works. But I was like, wow, I never thought about that. But that is actually such a cool idea. And also, I found a way to connect these magi with the stories of the Bible, also in a kind of a magical way. And I still don't know what happened, but the story was really good. And then I arrived here at the back door. I took the path through the backyard, and it was literally like 3 minutes before the stream should start. But the story wasn't finished, so I just paced up and down in the pouring rain outside in the grass. My legs are completely drenched with water now. Because I wanted to finish the story, because I know if I don't finish it, it will be gone forever. I don't. The details will be gone. It will be very hard to get back into the story. So that is why, I'm literally here, like the second the stream should start, and then obviously I still wasn't ready to put things in motion. But thank you so much for your patience. It's highly appreciated. Before I continue to tell you why I was so tired today, let me first address the questions that you've already shared in the comments. And if you have any other questions, by all means, please share them with the community. Brother Future wants to know, why are men and women so divided? It's like there's no common ground anymore. Well, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would tell Luke, it is a matter of perspective. This is maybe an impression that you have currently, but it is not something that that it's not my experience. In fact, I feel like I've actually that I understand women so much better than I did when I was 20 years younger. And it's mostly because I'm reading a lot of blogs, for instance, by women. I read stories. I follow a lot of interesting people online that have amazing knowledge and just a wonderful perspective on things, and that is very helpful for me. And it also kind of gives me an insight into the world of these women. And women and men, those are of course like very big categories. They're no two men are the same, no two women are the same, and it's a scale. It's I've always kind of struggled with this idea of what is a typical man or a typical woman. I remember as a child in not even in primary school, but what is before that? It's like basically daycare. I have very vivid memories of the kids, the other boys in my class always wanted to play with the cars, and they wanted to build stuff. And at the beginning of the day, we would be separated. There would be the group of boys would always be put with the boy toys. So the cars and the construction, the mechano and whatever it was called. Don't think we had Lego at the time. Whereas the girls, they were playing with the dolls, and they had like this miniature kitchen, and they could draw. And I was like, well, why can't I do that? That is so much more fun than I hated cars as a child, still do. It was totally not interesting to me, and I felt like I'm being coerced to play these things. And who tells me that this is for boys? And why can't I play with the miniature kitchen and all the fun stuff? And the girls, they were like playing like hospital. So they were pretending like the dolls were ill, and they would just put how do you say that, like bandages. And I was like, that's so cool. Why is that just for girls? And that's basically it's kind of something I've always been puzzled at. You know me, I have a huge range of interests and hobbies, and some of them are labeled for boys. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I love the kind of this dogfights in space, but I could also really enjoy like craftsmanship and drawing and gardening and all these things that are usually labeled as like, oh, that's women's stuff. I've learned as a priest, I've learned just as much of women saints as I've learned from male saints. And Saint Therese of Lisieux, who was a very kind of female saint, even in the way that she expresses herself. It's very girly, and that's obviously because she was a girl. She was a young woman, and had a very protective type of childhood. And yet, she taught me how to pray. She taught me so much about faith. And so, I think that the media and maybe also our culture is driving us apart and is emphasizing the differences. And I see a lot of that online. And just as much as I couldn't understand it as a child, why there were always fights between the boys and the girls, and I still don't get it today. I still don't see why this is a problem. And I hear a lot about the whole problem of the young man feeling like they don't belong, and that they don't know how to find direction in life. And they also don't know how to connect with women, and probably vice versa. You see also a lot of kind of prejudices towards men, and I think it's for some reason media and also sometimes politicians kind of, I feel like, and let's not forget the grifters online, the especially the young men that are making a lot of money by kind of fanning the flames of all these differences. It distorts reality. It's not like that. And the only way to overcome those differences is by reconnecting. And if you can't do that in real life because you don't know how, then I would suggest you start by just reading books and following women online and listening to their story. And for me, that's I wouldn't miss it for the world. It has, I mean, it's so important in helping me to learn and to grow. And it definitely has helped me in relating to women, and feeling totally at ease. And it's so different from when I was a teenager and even a student and a seminarian, where women are from another planet, and I always felt super awkward and I had no idea how to. I didn't even know what that world was about, but it's just because my horizon was very limited. And so, anyway, that's what has helped me and is still helping me. Maybe it can be of help to you as well. Let's go to the next question. Indonesia is lit, wants to know, hello, Father. Would like to ask you, what's your opinion on rappers? Kendrick Lamar, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, and Future. I put Future on here because he's considered the king of toxicity. Well, I have no idea who these people are. I don't listen to rap music. Didn't grow up with it. When you say, well, one of these guys is a very toxic rapper, that is in itself already for me a disqualification. I don't want toxic people in my life, even though their music can be good. But, I wouldn't eat the most delicious cake if I knew that there was poison in it. So why would I listen to great music? Maybe. But if the contents and the people that create that music are toxic, I just don't want to expose myself to that. And I'm sure that there are lots of great rappers out there that actually, do have values and are nice people. But I'm a simple guy. I just look at, are these people making the world a better place? Are they nice people? If not, then why would I hang out with them? And same is true with politicians. People can promise mountains of gold, but if I observe their behavior and they're just always ranting and always aggressive and always unhappy and violent, I don't want anything to do with these people. It's by the fruit that you can value the tree. And so if the fruits are rotten, then the tree's probably rotten. And the same is true with people. If they do rotten things, then, their heart is probably not entirely healthy. So I don't, life is too short for that stuff. So I'll just go and hang out with other people and find other artists that do reflect the values that I believe in. Samuel gives us an update about his brother. He's almost fully restored. That is so great to hear. We'll start to work part-time again next week. That is amazing news. I'm so happy. And I'm so glad that it's a relatively fast recovery, considering how bad it was and how dangerous the situation was. Really, really happy for you, Samuel. And Mike is enjoying a tasty lunch while watching the stream. That is good to know. Samuel has a book tip, the Demon War Saga Catholic fantasy where magic is drawn from stones given to the church. Interesting. The stones rain from heaven once every third generation, and a lot of the story is church politics with debates about saints and dogma. I'd never heard of those books. Interesting. An ancient archdemon has been sleeping for hundreds of years. Oh, that sounds like fairy tale stuff. It's like the Balrog, kind of looming in the darkness until it's awakened. Sounds good. Who's the author? The Demon Awakens. We've got Terrell, Eugene, Bellinger. Happy terrific Tuesday. I have a special question. What are your thoughts on Amazon canceling the Wheel of Time after 3 seasons? I am really sad and angry and disturbed by it. Especially because I don't buy the reasons that they give. Oh, it's about money. Oh, the viewership was not what we expected. Yeah, hogwash. That's not true. I think it's because of the story. I really believe it's because this is a very diverse story where women are very important, where you see a lot of the kind of the relationships, etc., that the current administration in the United States is railing against. I feel that this is another sign that Jeff Bezos is bending the knee for whoever is in power right now. This has nothing to do with money. He's got so much money, he can't spend it in 100 lifetimes. So, no, for me, I have a very strong suspicion. They will never say that out loud, but I guarantee you that it has to do with the contents of the story. And it's sad because I think that, you may have your own opinions about some of the elements of the story, but I believe that we need to listen to those stories as well. I think we can only grow by plunging us into worlds that are foreign to the worlds that we live in. And so that's one of the things that I loved about Wheel of Time. It's not Tolkien. It's not The Lord of the Rings. It's a totally different kind of worldview, different view on relationships, on values. And that's why I think it's so fascinating. It's where money starts to... Because ultimately, even the ideological side of this, let's say Bezos actually does want to please the current administration, then it's still about money. It's obviously still, he wants the government contracts. It's always about money. And money and art are strange bedfellows. I'm super grateful that we get Rings of Power, and that apparently they have committed to 5 seasons and 30 episodes or 50 episodes. I love it. I really love that. And I am unsure why such a successful TV series that really found its footing in this 3rd season is canceled. And it's not as expensive as Rings of Power. And it's, It's an incredible franchise. Well, the fact that someone who has all the money and therefore all the power over storytelling, the fact that they can pull the plug for me is a sign that we should never, maybe the Tolkien estate was right after all. Don't sell your crown jewels. Never ever sell the rights for eternity, like Tolkien did, unfortunately, with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien estate is extremely protective, and I think it's because of stuff like this. They don't want anyone to have power over Tolkien's voice. And at first, I was like, well, come on, give us these movies, give us more stories. But the more I think about it and more I see how, storytelling is now constrained by the ideological ideas of the week, the more I believe that the Tolkien estate is right. And Tolkien was very hesitant when it came to other people interpreting his stories. He had nightmares about Disney making a Disney version of The Lord of the Rings. And I start to understand more and more why. Maybe they will sell it to another network. That's my only hope, that they will sell it to Netflix it's basically only Netflix could probably afford to do something like this. Or Disney. But Disney is also very careful now. Disney also kind of show in everything that they too are making ideological choices to protect themselves against the wrath of the current cultural and political climate in the United States. I mean, look at what happened to The Acolyte. Yeah, there were lots of toxic people screaming and yelling that it was woke and whatnot. But it was a great story. It was great Star Wars. No one is going to convince me otherwise. It was very well executed. And I think if this could have continued for a couple more seasons, it may have been one of the most incredible sagas that we've ever seen. We'll never see that because, the loudmouths got their way and they canceled. So that to me was also a bad sign, not to mention what they did to Willow, the Willow TV series, also labeled woke and to DEI or whatever people are calling it nowadays. I thought it was an amazing story. It was lovely. The actors were amazing. And it disappeared. Not only did they cancel it, they completely deleted it from their network. That doesn't make sense to me. That, to me, is a very clear sign that this, too, was done under pressure. It was a way to please the people that don't want woke. And I'm thinking, people that call stories woke disqualify themselves immediately in my eyes. That shows media illiteracy. It shows disrespect for storytelling and disrespect for other people's values. So this is why you will never hear me talk about that. It's just content that I don't want to have those discussions because I believe it's a dead end and it shows narrow-mindedness and fear. And fear, we know this, fear leads to the dark side. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. Thank you, KM. I'm happy that you appreciate what I do. Let's see. We've got Gabriel, who has an anime question. Have you seen the film Akira? Yes. Ghost in the Shell? Yes. Those are classics. I love those movies. Incredibly well made. I agree. They're all hand drawn. This is way before computer animation. And yes, you're right. They were super influential on the Matrix and the visuals. I mean, the Wachowskis have said this time and again, that their whole Matrix visual language was inspired by Akira and by Ghost in the Shell and anime in general. Amazing. Thanks, actually, because now I need to rewatch them again. They're so good. Macarera asks, what techniques would you recommend for keeping hope in one's heart and remaining open to positivity despite all the negativity in the world? that no technique can do that for you, but you could. It's very, very easy. It's very, very simple. It's so simple that apparently nobody seems to think of it. And that is, shield yourself from those that are toxic and that are talking, using words as weapons, and focus on the people that speak words of love and kindness and understanding and respect. Surround yourself. Even look at your timeline of your social media feeds. Block anyone who posts negative stuff. Even if those people might actually not be that negative, but they're still, the fact that they're repeating all this negativity means that they are part of the problem. They've been lured into that toxicity. Just block them. They don't know that you block them. Just mute everything. Go, like one thing I did was I just subscribed to people who posted cat videos. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but that's what I did, and it helps. And those cats put a smile on my face every time I have breakfast and I browse through my feeds. It's as simple as that. I start the day with a smile. I don't listen to the news in the morning. I stopped doing that because I don't want to see what, whoever is, destroying the world and polluting people's minds. I listen to music that makes me happy. I sing along with songs that touch my heart. I read books that help me visualize a better world, that help me dream. And in my own words and in what I share online, I try to emphasize the positive, and I try to help people to find their way to that positivity and towards hope. It's one of the things that I love about Star Wars. It's called Star Wars, but ultimately what helps the rebels conquer the Death Star and Vader and the Emperor is hope. The rebels don't have any military superiority, but it's because they dare to dream, and they were able to sacrifice to make that dream a reality. As long as people keep doing that, there's no way in the world that darkness can win. And even in the darkest times and in the darkest circumstances, you can be a source of light. You can be a source of hope yourself. It's the little things that make the world a better place. Leave a positive comment. Give someone a thumbs up. Repost something you loved and that touched you, and add your words to it and say, hey, just to brighten up your day, look at these otters, look at these cute panda bears. Little things like that. I guarantee you, if you do that for a couple of weeks, your heart will lighten up. You will feel less depressed. You will look at the world differently. And if people attack you with negativity, shrug and tell yourself, oh, let them. That's what they think they need right now, but I don't need that. That's not helpful. It's not helping. It's not making the world a better place. Anger, fear, anxiety, it leads only to more depression and to more darkness. So I choose light. I choose joy. I choose humor. Make fun of everything. Make fun of yourself. Don't make fun of others, of course. But always try to find the smile in a story. And sometimes I will just cure myself by watching, for instance, Young Sheldon or The Big Bang Theory or Friends, or just old-fashioned, funny, maybe very, how do you say that, superficial, but stuff that makes me laugh. I'll just watch an episode of The Simpsons and the world becomes a better place already. So that's it. And this is not just a kind of a spiritual advice. This is the way our brain works. We know that all this negativity and those spirals, it's all neural pathways. And the more we get addicted to negativity and we engage with that negativity, starting flame wars, defending our, I am right, that person is wrong. The more we do that, the more our brains are conditioned to only see what's negative. If you start to heal your soul and heal your brain by focusing on the positive, by talking about everyone and also about yourself with positivity, your brain will heal. And you will literally start to look at the world in a different way. It's pouring rain outside. I used to hate that, especially if I was walking outside. And I would rant or like, come on, I hate this weather. And I don't do that anymore. I'm not that same person anymore. When I walk in the rain, I look at the flowers in the gardens of the people that live here, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, thank God for the rain. It's going to feed these flowers. Everything is going to be so much more green. I look at the yellow grass in my backyard because we've had 3 weeks without a drop of rain. And I'm thinking, tomorrow this is all going to be green. This is amazing. I smell, when it rains, the world smells differently. Everything is fresh, especially if you go in the woods. And I'm there, let it rain. Yeah, I'll get wet. It's not a problem. I have a shower. I can put on my warm pajamas. But yeah, let it rain. And that's kind of how I try to approach everything. Even the negative stuff that happens, always like, okay, I have a choice here. I can let that influence me, or I can say, well, I observe this negativity. Maybe I even notice in myself some feelings of unrest and anxiety and but those are just feelings. I'm not my feelings. I choose to just let them be. Let them be. I acknowledge that they are there, but I don't want to follow up on them. I choose deliberately to look at the good. That's how God looks at us. He doesn't even see sin and negativity and anger, because God is love, and he can only see love. And if it's not there, if there is hatred, God doesn't see it, so he can't, I don't know, it can't affect him. That's how I see it. The devil is the opposite, only sees what's negative, never can see the beauty, never can see hope, never can see, and people are very much like that. You have people, we can choose to only focus on the darkness, or we can ask God to help us to see the light. And the more we focus on the light, the more our eyes will get attuned to it, and the less we will be able to see the darkness. Hope that answers your question. Let's go back to the rappers. Black protests, sometimes use, yes, that's true. Rappers have been very influential, and sometimes also cultural, cultural cement, you could say. They give voice to the frustrations and the anger sometimes of certain groups of people, and there is legitimacy to that. Sometimes you have to express your anger, and you have to protest, and you have to demand that rights are respected and that people can be safe. So I'm not saying that we all have to sing along with the Sound of Music soundtrack. No. Music can also be an expression of our frustration. It's just that, an expression is something different than identifying yourself with that anger and that hatred and that violence. The moment you notice that it starts to take over your soul, that's where you have to kind of step back and think, kind of rethink your choices. That's what I would do. Hey Steve, good to see you again. Hope the weather in San Diego is better than over here in the Netherlands. Samuel says the author of the Demon War saga is R.A. Salvatore. Big name in science fiction, isn't it? Science fiction and fantasy? Or is it just fantasy? I don't recall. Brandon is there and is talking about water and Bethesda, birds and animals. Okay, interesting. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but thanks for sharing. Rutger wants to know, as a new apostolic Christian, I was wondering what you think of us non-Catholic Christians. I think the world of you. I think it's wonderful that you are trying to follow Jesus in your tradition, and with the support of your community, and with the expressions that and the culture that has grown over time in your community. I see Christians as my brothers and sisters. And we're all follow maybe different paths, but the horizon is the same. We're all kind of walking towards Jesus and trying to follow in his footsteps. And there, as Catholics say, there are many ways that lead to Rome. And I would say there are many ways that lead us to the city of God, to heaven. So, yeah, it's as simple as that. I hope it's mutual. Let's see. The problem of evil Kananga wants me to address. If you can give me some context, maybe I can expand upon that. But yeah, evil is a problem. Totally agree with that. And for many people, it's sometimes also an impediment for faith. You know, if there's so much evil in the world, how can there be a God that is good? To which I would say, the fact that there is evil and darkness in the world makes me only want to believe more in a God who is good and love and wants us to do something about it. KM says, I think that Disney pulled the Acolyte because it cost them money, because people quit their subscriptions because of the whole controversy about it. Maybe. Although, from what I've heard, the numbers actually were really good about the Acolyte. We'll never know because Disney never talks about stuff like that. But yeah, obviously with all these companies, it is always, in the end, the very end of the line, it's always about money. But money can drive these companies to make very morally wrong choices or culturally imprudent choices. Let's put it that way. Money, I think, and art, as I said, very, uncomfortable bedfellows. That's why I love writing so much. I write because I love writing. I don't care. I don't make money with my writing. I just want to share stories. For me, the reward is someone who leaves a comment and says, oh, that story really touched me. Yeah, the moment I have to do that to make money, I think I won't be able to tell stories anymore. I don't think the inspiration would be there because I would be constantly like obsessing over, okay, so what story should I tell so I can make a buck? That's not why I'm telling stories. And I think most artists are in the same boat. Most artists are poor, by the way, but they cannot stop themselves from creating art. It's just something that overflows, and it's a shame that in our world, only the money-making art kind of seems to be able to allow to be there, and a lot of the other art, for art's sake, is disregarded and even kind of bad-mouthed, like, well, we don't need art. And so we'll just, like we currently in the Netherlands have a government that is pulling all the subsidies of art because art is not useful. It's not useful unless it's stuff that they like, Yeah. Thankfully, artists usually cannot be stopped by monetary considerations. Big Man asks, have you seen Frieren? It is a beautiful tale. I so agree with you. I don't know if it's possible to fall in love with an anime, but I did with Frieren. It is, that to me is art, pure art. Storytelling, the way, the production value, the music. Oh, the music. It's not Japanese music. I think it's a German composer. I mean, go do yourself a favor and look up the soundtrack of Frieren. I've been playing that soundtrack on repeat for months now. And I never get tired of it. It is so beautiful. Even the background music, you barely hear it in the series. And I play here the original recording of it. It's like, oh my goodness. So beautiful. How can you shield yourself from negative people when your colleagues at work are, negative people? I always answer with a bit of a... I mean, it sounds cliche, but I think it's true. You cannot change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. To me, that was such an eye-opening phrase. So you cannot change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. That is, you cannot change the behavior of adult people. If you try, they will only resist more. That is why flame wars never lead to anything. That is why it doesn't really help to attack someone for what he or she thinks or says or does. They will have to discover that themselves. The only thing you can do is witness of what motivates you, of the values that you stand for. And anyone who steps on those values, you need to part ways with. If people ask you to respect them, then you have the same right to ask them to respect you. And you can be just very matter-of-factly to that. If they attack you, try to gaslight you, just tell them that that you don't want to interact with them in that way, and that you just kindly ask them for respect, and we agree to disagree. And then look for the good people. I mean, there's not one single work environment where you don't have nice people. And they may not be the people that you're working on your floor, so be it. But there will be people that work in the same building as you, or, I don't know, another department, or they may be in other roles. But they may be very nice people. Go sit with them. Go hang out with them. And during work, just focus on the work and think, I don't have to engage with this negativity. I don't want to engage. It's just not part of my values. And if you are in an environment where it's inescapable, and that can be the case, I would say it is time to prioritize your soul over your work. I think that ultimately you'll be more happy and more productive when you are with people that share your values than if you are with people that go against everything you believe in. You have to wonder, is this where I want to spend my working life? Life is short. Life is really short. Sometimes I would say you have to take a risk and just leave. And like Jesus says, go shake the dust of your sandals and go to the other village. If they don't share your values, they don't want to share your values, it's time to move on. And I think that's just as true as now. And it's a risk, and it's scary. But I believe ultimately that life rewards you choosing your values and to stand for them and protect your boundaries. And I've done that several times in my life, where I had to step away from a toxic situation and I was scared to death. And years later, I was like, oh, thank God I'm no longer there. I cannot imagine that I even was in that situation. Is it scary? Yes. Is it risky? Maybe. Is it good? Yes. Just Vid said, I just jumped in because there are only 2 viewers right now. I don't want you to feel lonely. That is so kind of you, but no worries. It's because you are probably watching this on the anime channel, which I haven't posted on in a long, long time. And so usually my anime followers don't notice when I go live, but I'm also cross streaming this to a number of other channels. So I've got my main YouTube channel, Father Roderick. I've got my books channel, which is Father Roderick-books. I'm streaming this to LinkedIn, to Facebook. So don't worry, there's actually quite a crowd, even though it may sound a bit empty where you are. But I really appreciate the sentiment. And I appreciate you being there. You bumped into my channel just a few days ago after watching Violet Evergarden, and you enjoyed my thoughts on it a lot. Well, thank you so much. I had such a blast watching Violet Evergarden. I still haven't finished the season, so there will be many more videos on Violet Evergarden and some of the other series. Yeah, I keep wondering why I don't watch more anime. It's probably because lately I had to watch a lot of Star Wars, because I'm also maybe I'll tell that story now. This past weekend, I was asked to be the main host of a big Star Wars convention in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And they wanted me to host the main stage, which meant that I had to interview all the Star Wars actors. Me, I'm a priest. And it's because over the years I kind of built up a reputation for being a very nerdy Star Wars fan who has a lot of friends in the Star Wars community, and that is absolutely true. And I happen to be a pretty seasoned interviewer. It's my job. I've been interviewing people for TV for 17 years, and so I'm pretty at ease with no matter who is there. I can you know make sure it's an entertaining conversation. And so they asked me back. I did this 2 years ago, and last Saturday I interviewed some wonderful people, among who, let me just get the website here, so I can tell you about these amazing people. Hold on. There, and then I go here. Oh, so they just posted a photo of the actors that are playing in the new TV series based on Harry Potter. So they finally found 3 kids who are going to start this very daunting adventure of playing these favorite roles. I hope that they're well protected, because the internet is not going to be kind to them, unfortunately. All right, so I interviewed Julian Glover. Do you know who that is? Julian Glover played General Veers in The Empire Strikes Back. It's a tiny little role, just 5 days of work, he told me. But you know him also of Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. He is the guy who drinks from the wrong chalice. Remember him? That's the same guy. That's General Veers. That's Julian Glover. You may also know him from many episodes of Game of Thrones, where he plays this old bearded the guy with the white beard, the counselor. He's been in 3 seasons, I think, of Game of Thrones. It's insane. And he's been in basically any TV series that you can imagine. He's been in Blake 7, Space 1999, Doctor Who. He told me he had multiple roles in the first season of Doctor Who, when it was still in black and white, with the oldest daughter, where the sets were made of carton. He had amazing stories to tell. He's 90 years old now. He's a little hard of hearing, so sometimes I had to repeat my question. But after the interview, he thanked me. He said, "I'm really happy that you conducted the interview. This was a really wonderful conversation." And I was like, "Ooh, thank you." Also, like Kathy Monroe was on stage with Julian Glover, and she actually has a tiny role. She's one of the bounty hunters, standing there with Boba Fett when Vader asks them to go after Solo, and she plays a masked character called Zuckuss. And it's been like an hour or 2 of work. She also plays like a background character in Cloud City on Bespin, but that's it. And yet, such a kind woman, wonderful presence on stage. And I was like, okay, what am I going to ask her? There's not much Star Wars related, and somehow it just became a wonderful conversation. You just have to be interested in the people behind the masks and behind the roles that they play. Then my next panel was with, let's see. I did another panel. Oh yeah, with Josh Roth. Josh Roth is not an actor, but he's the prop master. He's been doing this for 20 years. So all the droids that you see, the lightsabers, the hilts, he designed them. He created the hilts for Ahsoka's lightsabers. The puppeteers, but also the props on set, the little screens and the buttons that they push and the levers in the spaceships. And the spaceships themselves, it's all him. He has to make that work on set. He was very nervous, had never done a convention before in his life. And he was my first guest, and he was scheduled for a 45-minute talk. And he contacted me 2 weeks beforehand. He's like, "Oh, give me your questions. I've never done this before. I need to prepare." And he did prepare. But of course he was jet lagged, he was tired, and just very nervous. And so I I was so thankful that I was able to help him during that interview. Just I kind of know how to push the buttons, kind of virtually, to make him tell the stories. He has so many stories to tell. So I was very happy that he was very much at ease, and it was an amazing conversation. I just couldn't stop listening to him. And then my last panel, that was my favorite, I think. And it was an actress that I admire a lot. And it's Morgan, it's the actress who plays Morgan Elsbeth in both The Mandalorian and in the Ahsoka TV series. It's Diana Lee Inosanto. So she's actually, her godfather is Bruce Lee. And that's true. Her godfather. So she has a mixed religious background. One of her uncles is a priest, she told me. She spent most of her life actually as a stunt woman. So she did a lot of stunts in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was one of the stunt doubles of the main actress. And she also was a stunt coordinator in a lot of movies. And when they were planning this episode where Ahsoka appears, so this is the first episode where we see a live action Ahsoka, and they had planned this fight with a martial arts type of fighter, but they had no idea who to ask, and that is when they just started to Google, actress martial arts, and her name came up. And they looked at a movie that she had directed, a very small budget movie, and it was Jon Favreau who said, "We need her. We were going to ask her," and so she was asked to fight with Ahsoka, or her character was supposed to fight with Ahsoka. What she didn't know at the time was that episode was going to determine whether or not Disney would greenlight an Ahsoka standalone TV series. She had no idea. She thought it was just this one gig, one episode, and that's the end of it. And, well, that turned out completely different from what she expected. That episode was so beloved, and everybody was so enthusiastic about what they were able to pull off, also in terms of fight choreography. And the actress who plays Ahsoka, what's her name? Rosario. She showed how incredibly good she was at fighting. And she's a generation younger than Deanna. But Deanna said, I could immediately see, the pure talent of that actress. And then they decided, okay, we're gonna continue the story of Ahsoka. And we want Deanna back. We want this character to come back. And so that's how she got to play this enigmatic witch of Dathomir, who is like really good friends with the blue guy. What's his name? Anyway, you know whom I mean. And so I always think of him. His name is Zahn, but it's Timothy Zahn who invented that character. Why can't I? Admiral. I need to Google. I'm getting old. Star Wars Ahsoka blue guy. Thrawn. Admiral Thrawn. I know you're yelling at your screen right now. And Thrawn and Zahn. My brain is mixing those two up. And then my brain knows it's not Zahn, but it sounds similar. Thrawn. Okay, anyway. So, but what I loved is just the way she interacted with the fans, just super kind. And even to me, like she saw me walking around even before the interview, and she's like, "Oh, Father Roderick, oh, I'm so excited that you are going to be the one who's interviewing me, because I saw your video. I saw you reacting to the Ahsoka trailer in London." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And then it dawned upon me that she had seen my YouTube video. When I was at the Star Wars Celebration, they showed, this was the world premiere of the trailer for Ahsoka. And I didn't expect that to happen. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to film my reaction. I'm going to watch it. And I'm just holding my phone like this. I'm just going to film myself in selfie mode. Because that's, you can only watch a trailer once for the first time. And I posted that on YouTube, not thinking much of it. And it turns out she saw it. And so did lots of her colleagues. And they just were amazed to see a priest being so excited about a trailer. And I'm thinking why she tells me, well, that's not the first time that people kind of liked watching me watch trailers, Star Wars trailers. So anyway, so that's what I did that Saturday. And today I'm super tired because it's just, I always get a bit of a boomerang effect when I'm like having to perform at the top of my game for an entire day like that. I knew that in advance. This is going to take a couple of days for me to recover from. And so this is day 2, basically, because Sunday, no recovery for me. I had to go, celebrate Mass. And then I had some other work that I needed to do. So it's only Monday. Monday I crashed hard. And so I just wrote a few stories and that was it. And then today I didn't do much either. This morning I was completely tired. And funny enough, even when I went out for a walk, I was super tired. But I was like, okay, it's a non-negotiable. I always go for a walk. And then I have the stream and I don't feel tired right now. I will probably crash as soon as the stream is over. But you guys are giving me energy. So thank you for that. I'm now so behind on the questions. I apologize. I probably won't be able to make it all the way through the end of your questions because it's already 8 o'clock and I need to start wrapping up. But I'll just quickly do some rapid fire answers to your questions. Let's see. The abundance of evil in this world is a conundrum when God is an omnipotent and omnibenevolent being. Well, that's kind of the conundrum of the gospel. You see God's Son who is crucified and who allows himself to be crucified, who carries our crosses, and at the same time tells his Father to forgive. And his Father responds to death and evil by raising his Son from the dead. For me, that is the secret. That's the resolution. It shows us that God doesn't shy away from evil and death and pain, but he carries it with us. He joins us in that pain and shows us a way through it. So, and when you see Jesus, he's not healing every single person in the world like a magician would do, but he shows us what God does, and then he wants to be near these people. He's not here to solve the problem of evil. He's here to be the remedy. And that to Jesus, it doesn't really matter what philosophers and theologians will say about the problem of evil. He sees someone who's suffering and he wants to be close to that person. That is how he shows us what God is with regards to pain and suffering and evil. And for me, that's all I need to know. That's also, when I see the sheer amount of suffering in this world, I feel often very overwhelmed. And I struggle, but none of those struggles matter. The only thing that matters is, can I help? What can I do? And if I can't do something about the evil far away, maybe I can do something about the pain and suffering of people close to me. And if I do that, for me right now, that's enough. That is my answer to evil. And to be perfectly honest, I think it matters more than what philosophers and theologians say about evil and the goodness of God. God is someone who is, you guys talk. I got work to do. All right. Let's see. Just Vid says, I'm not really a religious person. I think that a lot of the rules are kind of illogical and dumb, but I sometimes find myself talking to God when I'm alone. I feel that there's someone there. Well, you may be right, That's how I started. As an 18-year-old, I had huge existential doubts about the existence of God, and yet I couldn't stop chatting with him. And I also didn't understand the rules and the church, and And everybody around me said, "Oh, the church is old-fashioned and is wrong, and then what do they know? And it's just a bunch of old guys." And it's only much later when I started to actually study theology and started to. My question was always like, okay, so maybe it sounds dumb and nonsensical, but there are a lot of smart people that were Catholics, and so they must have thought about that as well. And that's how I got into theology. It's like, okay, well, tell me, explain it to me. And then I started to discover that my initial image, the idea that I had, my comprehension was very, very limited. And the more I studied, the more, of course, the more questions I had, but also the more I started to see how things kind of click together, and how it kind of, there is a certain coherence to it. And I started to see what the principles were underneath those rules. But I'm still learning. There's still a lot of things in the church and even in the Bible that don't make sense, just because its rules are written down by humans, and even Bible stories are written down by humans, and humans are fallible and of different times and cultures, and stories contradict each other. But somewhere in there is God, who is talking to me and is trying to elicit a response, and that's the voice you should follow, and the rest will just follow by itself. You don't have to visit a church to connect to God. No, He's always there, right? And it's very normal to ask those questions. Actually, it's a sign of your intelligence and your curiosity. I highly value people who dare to ask those questions and to say them out loud. So many people don't want to ask those questions because it's like, oh, complicated. Oh, I don't want to think of it. Or people are going to judge me for it. Well, if people judge you for asking those intelligent questions, that's on them. My wisdom starts by asking questions. There's one thing I've learned from the Judaic tradition, is that it's like, look at the Talmud. It always starts with questions. Like, why do we do this? Why is that? Why is that? Just tell it. Explain it to me, and I'll try to understand. Keep asking those questions. Stay curious. That's how you will discover how incredibly deep and wonderful and interesting the world is. Don't stop with the simple questions. Always ask the next question. That's the beginning of wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing. What anime would Jesus have enjoyed? I have no idea. Probably the stories that are similar to the stories that he would tell. He would tell stories where bad stuff happens and stories where people do amazing things. Well, anime, very similar. What does the Catholic Church do well? Oh my gosh. There's so many good people in the Catholic Church. And there's so many selfless people that work day and night for the poor and stay in war zones. I mean, there are sisters that are currently in Gaza. Everything is destroyed. They can lose their lives at any minute, but they don't want to leave. They want to stay with those people and show them that they're not alone. Most of the good people, most of the saints don't have statues. We'll only discover that they were saints when we're up in heaven there. And they'll tell us or maybe God will tell us what they did. So, yeah, there are so many good people. Way more, thankfully, than that there are bad people in the world. Do I prefer reading in Dutch or in English? Equally. I read a little bit faster in Dutch, but it depends on the genre. And it depends on the author as well. Sometimes I will switch to Dutch if there's Dutch translation available. If the English is a little bit too tough, too complicated, sometimes people can write like for instance, what's her name? Robin Hobb. Her prose is very dense, very I don't know, it takes time to digest, and so I switched to Dutch. And it was easier to read. But it really depends. There are authors that I prefer reading in English. I don't have a specific example right. Well, for instance, Tolkien. Definitely want to read the English. The Dutch translation feels awkward and kind of clunky. No. Harry Potter, same thing. I can't read Harry Potter in Dutch. It is so wrong. It's not supposed to be in Dutch. Anyway. Have I seen Dogma? Yes, I've seen that Dogma movie. I thought it was very funny. And there's some interesting questions in there. Yes, I agree with you. Let's see. Okay, no question for this week, says the Dragon King. Good night, Pun Pun. No, I haven't seen that yet. Another new anime on my list. Will I ever read the other Warriors books? Oh, sure. I love the Warriors. Warriors, Warrior Cats in the Netherlands. Yeah, I actually have the entire series as an audiobook, both in Dutch and in English on my audiobook subscription service. So, yes, I'm just waiting for a little bit of time. But what I love about the books is they're really good. They're full of cats, which I love cats. I don't have a cat, but through the books, I can actually have a cat without having one. And they're kind of like a nice palate cleanser. You know what you're going to get. They're riveting stories. It's like Game of Thrones with whiskers. And sometimes I just need to read a book where I know it's not going to be too long before I dive into the next Brandon Sanderson. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciated the company. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, if you have any questions left, I'll be here next week. Same time, same channel. But thanks again for being there, for your friendship. And if you have a moment where you wonder, what shall I do with my time? And you like crazy stories written by a priest who loves fantasy and Star Wars, go take a look at my Substack. Maybe subscribe to it, leave a comment. It's fatherroderick.substack.com. So fatherroderick.substack.com. It's entirely free. There are lots of amazing people on Substack. And it's kind of like, it's advertisement free. It's so much better than Facebook and all those other social media. So yeah. And I post a new story every single day. So there's that. And then, of course, there is the Discord server, also free. Just sign up and we can continue the conversation all night long. Well, not all night long, but as much as you want. Talk to you later, and may the force be with you.